World Contraception Day is observed on September 26th every year as an annual global campaign to improve awareness about contraception. Now, the annual worldwide campaign centers around a vision where you do have every pregnancy being wanted. World Contraception Day mission is to improve awareness of contraception and enable young people to make informed choices on their sexual and reproductive health. Now, Uganda, with the leadership of the Ministry of Health, joins the rest of the world to commemorate the World Contraception Day, working with different development and implementing partners. One of these partners, Reproductive Health Uganda, has organized different sub-events to commemorate the same. Among the events Reproductive Health Uganda has organized is this morning's TV talk show, and I'm your host, Priscilla Regina Naloga. Welcome. Now, as we mark this very important day under the national theme, Breaking the Barriers, Embracing Contraceptive Choices for the Youths, it is essential to recognize the significance of providing a range of contraceptive options to individuals, allowing them to make informed decisions that align with their unique circumstances and aspirations. This theme is not only about contraception, it's about fostering autonomy, enabling informed choices, and advancing global efforts towards reproductive health and family planning. Following the above background, Reproductive Health Uganda, therefore, is seeking to draw attention to mobilizing and engaging youth, policymakers, CSOs, and other key decision makers to commemorate this year's World Contraceptive Day through this talk show aimed at providing a safe place for open discourse when it comes to sharing experiences, thoughts, and ideas around family planning as well as contraception. Now, my panelists this morning are well equipped to dissect this conversation. I am joined by Dr. Alan Kasozi, who's the Senior Medical Officer, the Division of Adolescent and School Health Department of Reproductive and Child Health. That is from the Ministry of Health. We also do have Mr. Jackson Chekweko. He is the Executive Director, Reproductive Health Uganda. And we do have our lady on the panel, Ms. Martha Mugabe, who is a Sexual Reproductive Health Services Advocate. And of course, I'm your moderator, Priscilla Regina Naloga. Now, the hashtags to go by on these conversations, we do have hashtag WCDUG23 as well as hashtag contraceptives for adolescents. You are most welcome. Now, turning to formal introductions of my panelists, I'll start with my immediate left. We do have Dr. Kasozi. You're most welcome and good morning.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, NTV. Thank you, Priscilla, for hosting us today morning to discuss the World Contraceptive Day. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning, viewers. My name is Dr. Alan Kasozi, a Senior Medical Officer in the Division of Adolescent and School Health. I bring you greetings from the Ministry of Health. We are currently leading efforts in organizing the World Contraceptive Day together with different partners. Please, at this moment, allow me to extend a word of thanks to our colleagues from Reproductive Health who are investing resources and time to see to it that we can hold a successful event. Thank you very much.
Okay. And to this, we turn to the partner in the room with us this morning from Reproductive Health Uganda. And Mr. Chekweko, you're most welcome. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you, Priscilla. Good morning, viewers. My name is Jackson Chekweko, the Executive Director for Reproductive Health Uganda, formerly called Family Planning Association of Uganda. But at 50, we changed our name to Reproductive Health Uganda, one of the leading non-governmental organizations complementing the efforts of Ministry of Health in expanding or promoting sexual and reproductive health, including provision of contraceptive services to our communities.
Okay. And we are also joined by a youth who's going to be giving us our own experiences and the contraceptive talk from her age group, and that is Ms. Mugabe. Good morning to you.
Good morning. Thank you so much, Priscilla. My name is Martha Mugabe. I'm a Sexual and Reproductive Health and Rights Advocate.
Yeah, okay. Well, thank you so much. Now, let's start off with a very interesting question, which I'll start with Dr. Kasozi here. We want to find out what's today's contraceptive uptake among young people in Uganda today?
Yes, thank you very much for that question. From the recently released preliminary findings of the Uganda Demographic and Health Survey of 2022, it was indicated that the modern contraceptive prevalence rate in the reproductive age bracket of 15 to 49 years has improved year on year from 2016 to now, and currently stands at 38% for the marrieds or the youth in union, whereas for the unmarried it stands at 43%. This is in line with our family planning commitments towards achieving a modern contraceptive rate of 50% by the year 2030. But as these are still preliminary findings, we are yet to have the complete document. We are still also working with data from the Uganda Bureau of Statistics, and the most recent data sets show that specifically in the age group of 15 to 19, the contraceptive prevalence rate for modern contraceptives is at 20%, specifically for that age group of 15 to 19. But that is twice as much when it comes to the unmarried youths. So again, we feel there is still some work to do there, but we shall surely get there.
Okay. All right, Mr. Chekweko, in regards to reproductive health, and especially where contraception is concerned, we do have information, we do have under-information and disinformation that is scattered amongst the youth. But also, you get to look at one of the hovering challenges of all this being the fact that the senior citizens of the country do not so much believe in the contraception theory, and yet you are encouraging the young people to take up more of these options for, you know, having a self-reproductive health.
Yeah, thank you, Priscilla. I want to really be categorical in this. There is a dilemma as a country where a number of some of our senior citizens, especially the elderly people, they want to think that things are still like it was in the past. Mm-hmm. Right now, the demographic structure of the country, and like it has been mentioned, over 78% of the population is below 30. You can imagine, below 30, the whole group from 30 above constitutes only 20% of the population of this country. Now, at 24, almost more than a half of the women are either pregnant or have had a child. At 19, the recent Uganda Demographic and Health Survey showed that 1 in 4 is either pregnant or has a baby. COVID caught us flat-footed. Teenage pregnancy it really brought us to our knees. So these are not good for the country. These are not good for our future generation. Or they say, the young people say, they are the current leaders. This is not good for the country. But we could have prevented this. If knowledge is power, if we empower the young people with the information to know that when you go and have a relationship, you enter into sex, you will get pregnant. Mm-hmm. If they know that, then they can handle their relationship while mindful that they don't want to cross the line. Now, after that, we need to empower the young people who are already either in stable relationships or are having sex, to say, okay, if I cannot have the relationship end at Olne without crossing the line, then I should protect myself. And here we are now talking of, can you protect yourself from getting pregnant if you are not ready to carry the pregnancy? That means we need to access them.
But that conversation should be a two-way conversation, because what I hear you saying is that protect yourself from getting pregnant, which means the female in the conversation. I'm not hearing protect yourself from not getting a lady pregnant, a young girl pregnant.
What I'm saying actually is we need to access services. We need to access contraceptive services to the young people, both male and female. Now, once these young people know where to get the services, be able to get the services, then they can be safe. They can have their relationships, but they are safe. But now this is where the dilemma comes. Now, me, Jackson, who is in my evening, I prescribe that, no, you should not have contraceptives. But the truth of the matter is that young people are getting pregnant. How do we reverse that? So, the message now is, can the policymakers, can the adults, can the community leaders appreciate the fact that for our generation to have a successful future, we really need to come together, give the young people the ability to do what is right for them, by empowering them with the information so that they make the right choices, by accessing services, by making them affordable. And as a country, we shall post better indices. Not to prolong the discussion, demographic health surveys showed that we did very well to reduce maternal mortality from 330 something to 180 something. Okay. That was a huge achievement. Infant mortality, we reduced from 54 to 30s. Huge achievement. But guess what? Teenage pregnancy, instead of following the others to come down, it even slightly increased.
Later on, I'll turn to the doctor, because while we seem to be, according applause to certain figures increasing and others reducing, it has also opened up another can of worms that we'll be later discussing. In turning to Martha, you're an advocate of ensuring that people enjoy their rights to sexual reproductive health. What are those rights that young people ought to be very conversant with in this day and era about sexual reproductive health?
Thank you, Priscilla. I think the first thing we need to talk about is what is contraception. So contraception are different devices and methods that people can use to prevent pregnancy. And the different contraception methods that on the market, we have things like IUDs, we have things like implants, injectables, and pills. So the different rights that young people ought to enjoy are, I have a right to privacy, I have a right to make a choice, I have a right to have sex, I have a right to access services, and I have a right to information. Yeah. Okay.
And do these young people actually, maybe in the urban centers they could, but in the rural centers, what has been your experience through your advocacy work of these young people having and also enjoying those rights? Because when you say, I have a right to have sex, and Mr. Chekweko hears you, they're like, hey, my daughter.
So young people are not actually getting to enjoy their rights because they don't have, first of all, this information. Some of these young people do not know that these are the rights they're supposed to enjoy. So you find a young person wants to access a service in a health facility. So they're entitled to privacy, but a young person is going to go to this health facility to get this kind of service. Let me give an example of an IUD, and within a short time, the health service provider is going to start judging her of, you are a 14-year-old girl, why are you getting an IUD? Why are you having sex at such an age? And within a short time, the whole community knows which is going to lead to judgment. And then Also, the cost. Some of these services are quite costly for the young people. On top of getting the service, a service can be, an IUD can be probably about 30,000. So on top of getting the 30,000, a young person has to incur costs like transportation to the health facility, which some of these young people in these in communities do not have that kind of finances. Then also stigma and taboos. In our communities or in our culture, as young people, we are not supposed to talk about having sex because it's something that is regarded as immoral or something that is regarded as very sacred. So young people are not able to talk about, are not able to have these conversations with their parents, so which makes them not to be able to have make informed choices. Yeah.
Okay. Dr. Alan, in regards to policy changes, what are those policy changes or advancements that you've actually been able to adopt to see some of these changes and the implementation of the wide range of contraceptive consumption across the bar here in Uganda?
Yeah, I appreciate the concerns from my colleagues here on the panel, but I also would like to inform you that at the Ministry of Health and the government of Uganda, we are signatory to quite a number of international, regional and local policies and commitments. If I could take you back a bit, the agenda for family planning in Uganda up to around 2010 had been hinged upon the International Conference on Population and Development, which we ratified to in 1994. And this sought to give couples and individuals, women, the right to make informed choices about the number of children, when and how they want to have these children. But not only that, we also ratified to the Millennium Development Goals, which later on became the Sustainable Development Goals. And over time, we've been able to achieve a number of wins when it comes to contraception. However, we gained some steam following the President's attendance of a summit, the London Summit on Family Planning in London in 2012. And here, Uganda recommitted to providing commodities as well as information, sexual reproductive health commodities as well as information on family planning to the population. So since then, it's been success. And as such, the Ministry of Health has been able to come up with a number of policies, including the Sexual Reproductive Health Policy of 2012, the Adolescent Health Policy 2012 still, the National Health Policy, the second National Health Policy, sorry, as well as a number of other policy documents like the Sharpen Plan in the Reproductive and Child Health Department. All these have been guided from the previous deliberations in these conferences. So when it comes to the policy advancements, we've progressively been seeing an improvement in the indices for which Mr. Jackson had already hinted on. We've seen that the total fertility rate, for example, we've come a long way. In 2000, it was at 6.9. But now that family planning, contraception has become more available to individuals, as we speak, the UDHS of 2022 put the total fertility rate at 5.2. So that's some success. Teenage pregnancy rates, though recently they've fairly stayed stagnant, but in 2000, in the year 2000, 20 years ago, that was at 31%. We're now talking about 24%. And indeed, most excitingly is the fact that maternal mortality ratios, that's the number of women dying per 100,000 deliveries, has reduced from 336 to 189. I think that's very recommendable. But not only that, the family planning modern contraceptive rates themselves have increased, both amongst the marrieds and the unmarrieds. In 2016, we're talking about a modern contraceptive rate prevalence of about 30.7%. Now we're talking about 38%. And our target actually is 50%. So as we head towards 2030, so it's exciting times for us as we see the trend improving.
Okay, well, that's interesting. The hashtag to follow is hashtag WCD and UG23, so that you can be a part of this conversation. You could be having a question, or you want to seek better understanding of the contraception discussion that we're having here. You can still drop it across our social media platforms on Twitter, as well as on Facebook, and as well as our streaming channel on what we have as YouTube, NTV Uganda, and we'll be able to pick up some of those later on. Now, turning to Mr. Chekweko, of course, he has talked about the policymakers from his side. You do have the community. You do have the healthcare providers. We have been singing the song in my times. It was the ABC song, but now the song I hear is the AAA: accessibility, availability, affordability. And is this a reality when it comes to, you know, the grassroots communities? When we talk about contraception, do they have the accessibility across the bar that is fair, and also balances out to the fact that these work for the ladies, these work for the gentlemen? When it comes to the affordability, have you had that conversation with the policymakers to make sure that it can be easily affordable? And then when it comes to availability, the national drugstores, does it have constant stock to provide the nation with these options available on the market?
Yeah, thank you again, Priscilla. Let me first compliment what Dr. Alan has just shared. I think the ministry has really made good progress in creating the facilitative policy environment, especially in provision of family planning services. The ministry established an alternative distribution strategy, where commodities are now available to the public health facilities through the national medical stores. And then commodities are available to the private sector, the NGOs, the PNFPs, profit, not for profit, through joint medical stores. Now they have recently created another policy where it is saying one warehouse, one facility, with the intention of ensuring that drugs reach the last mile. I think that's a good policy. At country level also, government established what they call the National Costed Implementation Plan for Family Planning. And that aims to look at the various pillars addressing issues of stewardship, service delivery, demand creation at national level. Now, this has been cascaded to the districts. Now, every district has now developed their own district costed implementation plan for family planning, and we have a number of districts who have allocated real funding to provision of family planning services. Now, where the snag is, and let me answer the question you raised. Right now, we can proudly say family planning services are available across the country. If you go to Karamoja, you find the Ministry of Health providing services. You find implementing partners like Reproductive Health Uganda in Karamoja. You go to Western Nile, the same. So the services are now accessible. But of course, contraceptive services like my colleague Rachel has just mentioned varies. We are now even talking about permanent methods. And I'm happy to inform you that increasingly a number of men are taking vasectomy. The other day I was in Tororo. I was in Putaleja, I was in Pusia, I was in Tororo. And each of the districts, men were lined up giving testimonies of how they have taken vasectomy. That is where a man takes on a permanent method of family planning. They cut the tubes and whatever. And they are very proud. These are guys of 35, 36, 37 years. I don't know whether I have the permission. One of the big district leaders in Putaleja is a living testimony going round that, you know, me, I have done it. So services are valuable. Organizations like RHQ, the implementing partners of the Ministry of Health, are working with the Ministry of Health to skill the health workers in the facilities to have a wide range, such that they have confidence. So we do outreaches there, and when we are out of the facility, they continue. So the services are now available. 2, affordability. In all the public health facilities, family planning services are free. And then, where the challenge is we dilly-dally with the information. I want to use this opportunity really to tell the country, no country has succeeded in development without a well-managed population growth. No country. It is evidence, there is research. A country will only develop when the development is matched with its growth rate. And that's what this country needs.
Okay.
Now, the thing which we need is every leader should go out there and tell people that, please, time has come when every child should be planned. Not an emergency.
Oh, it's the hashtag planned kids that's going and trending around.
Child, we know every child is wanted.
Planned kids.
They should be
kids.
planned.
Yeah.
So everybody should tell people, go and have family planning. Gone are the days where men and women used to separate beds.
But you see, some people have translated planned kids to give birth to in Butareja, give birth to another one in Bara, give birth to another one in
the policy is if you can afford. If you can afford, fine. But if you are struggling to take care of even the 3, then you think you want to fill the clan. That's not proper. So we need demand creation. Then, as service providers, we also need to be friendly, especially when it comes to the youth. And Rachel didn't mix words. You will find a service provider being judgmental. Who told you? You don't know even the circumstances under which this young person is having sex. Others are doing it for survival, others are being
Speaking of which, let's first hear from Martha. And given the fact that the national theme this year is particularly focused on youth, breaking the barriers, embracing contraceptive choices for the youth, what are those present-day barriers that young people are faced with, especially in accessing information to make the informed decision that is before them?
I think the first challenge they are facing is that they don't have this information. They don't know what contraceptive methods are in the market or where they can find them. And then, like Jackson said, once they have at least the information on where to access the services, some of these service providers are very judgmental. Some of these young people are having sexual intercourse at a young age because probably it's survival. They want to survive. Others, it's under different circumstances. So giving them information on where they can find these services is very key.
Let me ask you on that point. Would you advocate for sex education in school curriculums?
Yes. I would advocate for sexuality education in the school curriculum, because if you've gone to a primary school or a secondary school, you're going to see a poster that has say no to sex. But why are you telling this young person to say no to sex? You need to tell them, we need in the curriculum for them to have age-appropriate information that we are telling you to say no to sex because this is what is going to happen. You're going to get pregnant, you're going to get an STI probably, you're going to be vulnerable to very many diseases. So it needs to be put out there in the curriculum so that it's not just say no to sex. What do you mean by say no to sex? Because it's going to make certain young people inquisitive of, okay, you've said say no to sex.
So what is sex?
Yes.
Why should I say no? So let me test and see, then I can say no.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Dr. Kasozi, when it comes to sexuality education, being implemented across the bar as far as education is concerned. What is the Ministry of Health's school of thoughts on that?
Yeah, so when it comes to sexuality education in schools, Ministry of Health already has some guidance which was developed by the Ministry of Education in collaboration with the Ministry of Health. And the Ministry of Health recommends that this sexuality education in schools is integrated into the curriculum. And indeed, that's already being done. We recognize that there are challenges sometimes with who to conduct the sexuality education in schools. Mm-hmm. And as such, we've gone ahead to build the capacity of the people in schools, like senior men and senior women teachers and school administrators. Of course, this is in collaboration with the Ministry of Education. So sexuality education is an attempt at integrating family planning and all the other related sexual reproductive health issues into the life course of individuals. Okay. So say, like in schools, we are not going to come and tell people, please use family planning, but we shall talk about pregnancy prevention because they need that information to keep themselves healthy and to prevent pregnancy. So where does it start from? It starts from them knowing their body. For example, growth and development. How do I prevent HIV and STDs? And the conversation moves on and on. And then maybe when they drop out of school, then we can have another conversation about family planning and contraceptive use. Depending on the diverse circumstances they will find themselves in and the unique challenges that they may be facing. However, what's exciting about this conversation is that indeed it's starting a discussion around contraceptive use, mm-hmm. especially amongst the youth. And this is really in line with this year's World Contraception Day. And that we are increasingly agreeing that the ministry is doing. Mm-hmm. There is some work that's being done, given the improvement in the indices, but that we need discussions in the community. The decision to use family planning does not start from the health facility, it starts from the community. And the barriers in there is what we really need to discuss. Mm. And that's why you're seeing that this year's theme for this World Contraception Day is about breaking barriers, mm-hmm. and increasing choices for these young people. So want to go there, down there in Chenjojo, talk to the young people, talk to the community gatekeepers, and hear from them what they have to say about these barriers, okay, and how we can break them.
Mr. Chekweko, what are the increased choices that we do have for the young people today?
Actually, that is a very important one. Take, for example, a young person has a boyfriend or a girlfriend. For some reason, you know, most of the sex among young people are unplanned. They are erratic, in the green gardens. Mm. Now, one of the number one choice, which is my choice, is that when you have made that mistake and you had live sex, you didn't use a condom, there is a contraceptive called emergency contraceptive pill, which gives you a second chance to prevent the pregnancy even when things have gone wrong. Now, that is on emergency, which should be used purely for the sense of emergency.
But let's first stay on that pill, and Martha will tell me why she's happy about me staying there. Martha, why are you happy at me staying at the pill itself?
No, because you said it is supposed to be used in in times of emergency.
Okay.
But as a young person who has been at campus, some young people are going to have emergencies every day. So every weekend.
Not every
weekend
day, every day. Every day. Mm.
So it ends up being misused. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that means that this young person is going to take that emergency pill every day.
No.
Which is not good for their reproductive health in turn. Dr. Kasozi, isn't it?
True.
What are the repercussions? Because this is the information they need to have. We keep saying the emergency pill, but we never tell them that if you take it on a daily basis, it's going to have repercussions on your body, on your reproductive health. In case you want to have children in the future, what then becomes of you having overused such an option on the market?
Yeah, so when a young person uses emergency contraceptives, usually the recommendation is that it shouldn't be more than twice in a year, so you can see. And this guidance is out of the fact that the amount of medicine or hormone in the emergency pill is quite high, and it's really for the purposes of emergency, handling an emergency. But for us, we don't look at it that way. Of course, occasionally there is that young person who is going to have unplanned intercourse, but we also have a range of other circumstances like, say, rape, or incest, or if it's like an act of violence against a girl. So then the emergency contraception will really come in handy.
Okay.
But most importantly, for the young people that are abusing this emergency contraception, it's really for lack of information, because there's a range of other choices.
And I pray that in Chenjojo, that is one of the discussions that I had. Back to you, Mr. Chekweko. Then what is the safe alternative? Because now we've seen the pill is good, but the emergencies cannot go beyond 2 recommended in health terms.
First of all, I wanted to mention that one because it's usually a missed opportunity. Yeah. It is not equivalent to having unplanned pregnancy. Yes, it has side effects, but at least if you have done it, please, you have a second choice. But there is a full range. We have now the new technology, Cyanopress. They call it DMPA. Cyanopress is such a modern contraceptive where the needle is so small, it is applied just on the surface of any part of the skin. Of course, the trained health workers will show, and it can be self-administered. And it is such convenient that you can put it in your bag. If you are even traveling, put it in your bag, you administer it to yourself for as long as you've been trained how to use it. That is a new technology, and it takes 3 months. It's like the Depo-Provera, which takes 3 months. Now, that's another new choice. Of course, we have the pills. People want to say it's inconveniencing, but it is cool. You just take one, and then the following day, same time, you take one, for as long as there is spousal support. But even when you have issues, but you can take it. Then we have the implant. If, for example, I'm a university student, I am planning to have my baby after 5 years. Instead of having this one of 3 months left, I can have an implant which will take me 3 years or 5 years. And after that, it can be removed anytime. Anytime it can be removed. And evidence has shown that it's just normal like any other person. Then the other one, we have a number of young people whom even by the age of 25, they have had the required number of children. Especially our young persons in the village. You find a woman has 6 children by 27. So it is not that you are a young person that you cannot take a permanent method.
Okay.
A permanent method. And so is to the men. The testimony I got in Busia, the guy was 35 years, but he has already his 7 children, and he said, enough is enough. Me, I'm a seller in the market. He went for vasectomy. So these are all choices available to us. Then there is the IUD, intrauterine device. Doctor will explain better. That one can even take 10 years, 7 years. And these are for mothers who are stable. You want to now monitor things as they move, to take you to menopause. These are choices. What I want to mention is that contraceptives are safe. We don't have evidence of a woman or a man who has died because of contraception. It is only unless you didn't go through the process.
Okay.
A qualified person should assess maybe your sugar levels or your pressure or whatever before they give you the method of choice. And then the decision is yours.
Okay.
They don't prescribe for you.
Yeah.
The decision.
The decision comes down to you. All right. Turning to you, Martha, as we do commemorate the World Contraception Day today, of course, focusing on the youth, what do you believe from your standing point of view and your interaction with the young generation? What should be put in place by, say, the Ministry of Health, implementing partners, to be able to harness a safe environment, to have these discussions, to have this information, but later on to make the informed decision?
I think the first thing we need to do is the ministry to give this information to the parents. And when the parents get this information, they need to accept that their young children are going to having sex, or they're going to have sex later on. And when the parents get this information, they need to sit down with their children and tell them, you know what, this if you have sex at an early age, this is what is going to happen. This is what you're going to reap from that. And then also, like we earlier talked about, having sexuality education incorporated into the curriculum, which is going to help very many young people get information on, get correct and accurate information in sexual and reproductive health. And then we also need to do, the ministry needs to do public awareness on what contraceptive methods are available, where can they get these services, what cost can they get these services at, and also they need to also have information on the pros and cons of getting each of these methods. If you get if you're getting a pill, how are you going to use this pill? And then also having these methods be put at a subsidized cost, a cost that can be affordable by both people in the rural and urban areas. Yeah, and also, yeah, putting out the messages to the general public.
Okay, all right. Looking at the theme for this year, Dr. Kasozi, breaking the barriers, ensuring that the youth embrace contraceptive choices. What is the government committing to do for the next 365 days? One, of course, to deal with the barriers Martha and Mr. Chekweko have presented.
Yes, thank you very much. The government is committing, as always, to increase choices for contraception amongst the youth and indeed the general population. But specifically for this year, as the theme speaks, we looking at those things that are preventing use and uptake and access, to contraception. And we know what they are, and that these are the other determinants out there, okay, in the community. We know there's lots of myths going on and misconceptions, which the previous panelists have alluded to, and we're engaging the social behavior change strategies through the Health Promotion and Education Department. We are making contraception more available this year, as has been previously. Government commits $5 million US towards the purchase of these contraceptives every year. But not only that, through its mandate, the government is also able year on year to mobilize at least about $20 million US for the purpose of warehousing and procurement of these contraceptives. Contraception in itself, we are moving it out of the health spaces alone, and we are putting it out there as an issue on social development. We don't want to look at it only as a health challenge. So we are increasingly engaging our colleagues in the Human Capital Development Program, that is the Ministry of Gender, the Ministry of Education, the Ministry of Local Government, and the other line ministries within the Human Capital Development as envisaged in the National Development Plan 3. So the Ministry of Gender, why? Because we need to talk to the culturally religious leaders, the gatekeepers. They are the custodians of these negative social cultural norms and practices. When we are talking about engaging the boy child, like you said, or the males, the partners to these women sometimes are the ones that need to give approval for the lady to then go and access the family planning. So the conversation needs to start from the community. And Ministry of Education, we need sexuality education in schools, and indeed it's happening, though with a bit of reservations from some sections of society. But it's happening nevertheless. We're moving forward.
Talk to us about the Commemoration Day, and it's happening in Chenjejo, I know, but what's the program going to be running like? How are you going to be actively engaging in these discussions in Chenjejo?
Yes, so the Commemoration Day is an annual event that happens on every 26th of September. I know today is the 26th, but we elected to have it on the 30th. Of September, which is this coming Saturday. It's been organized by the Ministry of Health with support from a number of partners, of which RHU is a leading partner. And we chose to commemorate it from Chenjejo district, which was selected as one of the worst affected districts in the Rwenzori sub-region. Recent statistics had indicated that Rwenzori sub-region had the highest rates of teenage pregnancies over the past 3 years, which were COVID years. And as such, we felt like we needed to create some bit of awareness on the need to use contraception as a means to preventing teenage pregnancy. But not only that, to also engage, like I said, the community gatekeepers into conversations around the barriers that prevent the young people from utilizing contraception. We know it's a bit sticky in the communities when it comes to using contraception amongst young people. Myths and misconceptions, misinformation amongst peers, low male involvement, and some negative social cultural beliefs and attitudes. Not only that, we are also engaging district leaderships from all across the region into these conversations, so that when it comes to planning processes, budgeting processes, and like he alluded to, districts can now be able to come up with their own costed implementation plans. We want them to prioritize family planning as an essential service package that would then lead to a universal health coverage.
All right. The planned population is definitely a planned development and a planned economy thereof. Mr. Chekweko, as the Executive Director with Reproductive Health Uganda, I know that your mandate is to ensure that there is increased access to age-appropriate sexual reproductive information and services to all Ugandans. Amidst this World Contraception Day commemoration, what is your voice in conclusion on this conversation, especially in breaking barriers for the young people?
Yeah, thank you. I want to mention something. Uganda government under Vision 2040 and NDP 3 looks at harnessing the demographic dividend as one of the key drivers to taking this country to a self-sustaining economy. Family planning is one of the key pillars for achieving this vision. So it's not only that it is something which we should not invest heavily. It is the in thing now, and as a country we need to invest both at national level and at grassroots level. As a ministry, and again as Minister of Finance, one of the challenges is that yes, we are continuing to create demand, but sometimes we realize stockouts. And we need to root that out, because once you tell people to come to the facilities, ensure that the commodities are there. Now, at the community level, of course, together with other partners, we continue to mobilize communities, working with the VHTs, working with district leaderships, but we are at varying levels. You will find that we are far in other areas. But I want to conclude by sending a message to the young people. Young people, it is cool to abstain until the right time comes. Always do the right things at the right time.
Okay.
But for those who are in relationships, some of them could be abusive relationships. Please, it is the in thing. Either, if you are not using a condom, which has a double function of preventing HIV and pregnancy, you then go for contraceptives, the wide range which has been shared.
Okay.
It is a mistake for a young person to be engaging in sex, but you are not protecting yourself.
Okay.
And the consequences are sometimes very devastating. Dropping out of school, you can miss out that best person you are looking forward to, and that is it. So then for the public and for the leadership, let's talk to our communities. That LSC one, let's tell the people that the services are in the health facilities. Let's go for them.
All right.
And for the men, the best
Yes.
gift you can give to your partner is support her to have contraceptives. If you cannot, go for vasectomy, or if you cannot, use the condom yourself.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Jackson Chekweko. He is the Executive Director, Reproductive Health Uganda. We've also had this discussion in line with Ms. Martha Mugabe, who is a sexual reproductive health rights advocate. Thank you so much for your input. And of course, from the Ministry of Health, Dr. Alan Kasozi. Thank you so much for bringing tonight these conversations. And we hope at the end of the day that this dialogue, this discourse has been able to empower you, especially as a young person, with accurate information about contraception, but how also it is necessary, your responsibility to have an informed mind so that you can make an informed decision as a young person. World Contraception Day being commemorated today worldwide, we get to look at the theme being breaking the barriers, embracing contraceptive choices for the youth. The celebrations will be in Change over the course of this weekend on Saturday, and so we'll be looking deeper into that. At the end of the day, make sure that you make the right decision for yourself. Good day.